Council, everybody. Good afternoon, Professor. Today we introduce our presentation for the class of EDSN 650, Instruction Technology with Toro. My name is Maha and I did this presentation with two of my classmates, Krystal and Keith.
Unfortunately, couldn't be here this evening, but we will continue with our presentation on emotional disability. Okay. So our disability we chose is bipolar disorder, and a lot of times we come into contact with students that look like this student here, very angry, disruptive, and impulsive.
Okay, as we know, there is 13 types of disability. One of them is the emotional disability, and that under the emotional disability there is bipolar and behavior problem. So on this slide we will talk about the definition of bipolar specifically. And they said the students exhibit undesirable behavior, and it's on and off between depression and mania, and this affect his learning in the classroom.
So what is the bipolar disorder? As you see in the picture, you have one side that's happy and then the next is sad. And that's pretty much what bipolar disorder is. It's also known as manic depressive illness. It's a brain disorder that has shifts in moods, your energy levels fluctuate, and your mood, and literally 1 minute you could be happy and the next minute you can be sad.
So the causes for this bipolar disorder, the study doesn't really know what causes it. It can be, some studies say it's genetic, they get transferred from the parents or from the grandparent. Some other study says that it can be from environment, that this student or this person exposed to a catastrophe or a disaster in his life or in her life. Maybe divorce for their parent, or any other environmental issue that caused this student, this person to be diagnosed with a bipolar disorder. Also, so they are the researcher or the scientist figure out some way to assess or to identify the student with bipolar disorder. They said they have different moods, and they switch between moods. Maybe it can be the transfer balance between mood. It can be in week, or it can be in days, or it can be in hours, between hours. Also, there are some screening. They figure out some screening tests to figure out to identify or diagnose these students with bipolar, so they can support them with intervention.
So according to this book, Exceptional Children and Introduction to Special Education, it talks about the prevalence of students with emotional disorders, and it states that between 3 and 10% of children have these type of behavioral issues or emotional disorders. Children with these emotional behavioral problems, it affects their progress in school, because a lot of times if they have a flare-up and they have some behavioral issue happening in the class, say calling out or aggressive behavior, a lot of times the teacher doesn't want to deal with that behavior and they're sent out of the classroom. Thus, the teacher is now able to get command of her classroom, but that student is losing out on quality instruction that they're not going to get back.
Okay, so also the study says that 75% with the students or with the people who in our classroom, they didn't get diagnosed with bipolar. They just dealing with this behavior issue without get a proper intervention or proper diagnostic. And they say it's hard to identify student with bipolar in that really early age. Unlike autism, it's better to diagnose it when you are really young. It's hard to define because usually the kids, they are having different moods. Sometimes they upset, sometimes they are hyper or active. So it's hard to identify at a early age. But when they get older, that's when they figure out, oh, this is student, there's something wrong, this something irregular with this behavior. So we have to go get evaluation. Also, they found at students after they graduated from high school, after age 18, they found it's more male. They are diagnosed with they are suffering from bipolar, and less female. And among those female who's suffering from bipolar, they getting like they having their they becoming mom at really young age, 3 or 5 years after they graduate from high school.
And the males tend to be juvenile delinquents, often going into jail for crimes, and they're recidivists. They're constantly doing the same crime over and over and over. So these are the poles. The high is when they're severe mania or hypomania. Then that's normal mood. Then the lows are considered mild depression or severe depression. So these are the mood swings. It could be very high or it could be very low.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the mania mood. That's when they have a irritable mood. It can be repeatedly in less than 1 week. That's when you figure out, oh, this is something wrong. They are so hyper. They are their brain cannot stop working. They take a less time of sleep, so they're so active.
So some of the symptoms of mania is high self-esteem or grandiosity, where they think very, very highly of themselves. Decreased need for sleep. They're so high in a sense that they can't even sleep. Racing thoughts, flight of ideas. This is a time when they generally have a lot of good ideas. Spending spree, increased physical, mental energy, irritability, aggressive behavior, impulsive, risk-taking, increased sexual drive.
And the other mood is called the depression mood. That's when they're feeling down. They don't want to enjoy the life. They lost their interest of being social or interacting with people.
So some of those symptoms of depression include weight gain or weight loss, insomnia where they can't sleep or hypersomnia, psychomotor agitation or slowdown, fatigue where they're very tired and there's a loss of energy, decreased ability to concentrate or make decisions, and recurrent thoughts of death or suicide, unfortunately.
So with all this behavior, when it comes to the classroom, we found that these students are have extreme resistance to follow the rule. They lack of following the rule. They speak out repeatedly or fast. They cannot concentrate that much, and they unable to change with transition.
Okay, so here we have 3 pictures. Can anyone guess what type of student is depicted here? I'll give you multiple choice. You have withdrawn, antisocial, or acting out. What would you classify this student? Withdrawn, very good. And how about this student? You have acting out and antisocial. Antisocial, everyone agree? Actually, this one acting out. He's ready to pull her hair, make her cry. And this one is the antisocial kid, doesn't want to be in the setting where the children are playing, and the teacher has to give him personal attention and care. So if you press the button, you'll see if you were correct or not. No, yeah, see, withdrawn, again. Acting out.
And the last one.
Antisocial. Good job.
Tap yourself in the shoulder if you get the correct answer. Okay, so this is the website that we have our living book and our lesson plan. What are we gonna try? So it's basically the same presentation, but we transfer after we get this lesson from Dr. Stein in how to create a living book. So this is our living book.
And actually, we found this would be very helpful to a student who does have emotional disorder or bipolar, because they have such short attention spans. When you flip the page, it makes that wispy noise, so we catch their attention. So we were very happy we were able to create this.
Actually, also this is like not relative to, but I work in a special ed class, and my students were working about learning about Australia. So we did. They know how to do presentation slides. So I took this slide and transferred to PDF, and we create together this flip book about Australia. And also we have the lesson plan, actually, because we kind of the last group to present. So we did 2 lesson plans, one for the science. I did it earlier in the year when I gave the science assignment from my school, and the second one was from Krystal.
And it's more for a kindergarten class.
Okay.
It's a writing lesson plan.
So we're gonna go with the first one. Is a science lesson. It's about the lesson plan is about inherited and